What's the deal, everyone? Welcome back to the studio. I'm Jeremy Deal, and while working on a massive lighting video that goes over all the techniques I use for lighting all of my agents on site and all of my other videos, I thought it might actually be best to release this first one as a standalone because it's really long. I might have released them all as standalones. I mean, the main reason is simple. This is the lighting technique I use the most in the field because it's super quick to set up, move around, and the best part, only requires one light. In this one, I have some great behind-the-scenes shots of the technique setup, layout, and how to make this one single light stretch to do all the heavy lifting of multiple lights using techniques instead of extra gear. Am I saying this is going to work for you every single time without a fail? Definitely not. But I can tell you this setup works pretty flawlessly for me 75% of the time, especially for those houses sitting under 3,500 square feet that agents want to be inside of. First, let's go over the gear. So you never feel lost when I start shorthanding everything later on in this video. For this setup, the gear is very minimal. The light I'm bringing is the Zhuan Molus G300 on recommendation from a fellow channel subscriber. I was using the Godox SL150 for this, the same one I'm using right now, but I found it to be underpowered for those bright windows pretty often, and the fact that it's only daylight meant I couldn't match the color temperature of the room. This might not seem like a big deal, but when you watch through my older videos, you'll notice agents always look perfect and the background is always kind of orangey yellow tone, and that's not from my choice. That's because I had to expose for the agent skin tones. With the G300, it's not only twice as powerful as this SL150, it's also bicolor adjustable, which means I can now make the agent and the room behind them look more like their accurate colors by adjusting the light to match that tone. Now, this video is not sponsored by Zhuan. That goes out to a long-standing sponsor of the channel. We Got Editor, my go-to choice for editing teams I can trust, but more on them at the very end of the video. Typically at this point, I would introduce the other two lights for the setup, but I'm actually going to show you how to eliminate the need for those, so you can spend your money where it matters, that powerful main light. Don't skimp out and get something like I did with the SL150 to start, because you'll always regret not going big enough to overpower in those larger spaces. And if you don't get bicolor, you will just be mad at yourself until you replace it with a new light, of course, like I did. Take it from someone who's had all these regrets already. Link in the description for the G300. Get yourself a discount, support the channel at the same time. You're welcome. Now, for the other gear you're gonna need. First thing I recommend is a softbox of some sort. A lot of people really like the lanterns here because of how simple they are, but personally, I prefer more control over my lighting, and the vast spill that happens with these lanterns can make your images look a little less dynamic and a little more flat, especially if you're not used to working with them. Granted, of course, there are ways to work around that, but as a beginner, those are some issues you might encounter if you go with that lantern route. I prefer something like this, the 90D parabolic octabox. The long parabolic shape means I can throw the light further with more directionality, and if you add the grid that comes with it, it reduces that spill even more, allowing you the most control possible. As someone who comes from a fashion and advertising photography background, I find the control of lighting here to be paramount to creating the images that I see in my head. Plus, the fact that this softbox was made specifically to fit the G300 means it's a much easier fit in the field all the way around. I do prefer the way my Policy Buff Octabox locks open and closes with a single hand thread instead of these locking points with the Zhuan version, but the Zhuan version is also way lighter in my hands and therefore lighter on the stand, and that makes a big difference. Not only that, the Policy Buff one is a standard Octabox, so it suffers from those issues I brought up when it comes to that light spill and control. Again, I'm just giving you all the issues I've made, so hopefully you can skip right past those and get into a system that works great for you from the get-go. Now, you're gonna need something for the light to sit on. You really have two options here. One of these cheap, flimsy stands we all have that cost about $8 each, or my personal choice is this C-stand in particular. I like it because the legs pop off to make it smaller, easier to manage and transport, and it's extremely hardy, so I never worry about the stability of the light on site. Nothing worse than a cheap stand going down and taking down the homeowner's vases and flowers crashing to the floor with it. Talk about a reason to need your insurance, right? Not to beat in your head with this, but learn from my mistakes. Use a C-stand and a sandbag. Fair warning. From here, you're only gonna need two more things to get the job done, and that's a microphone and a good set of headphones. This is where options are near limitless, so I can't give you a great representation. I always ask the agent how important it is for that mic to be hidden in their video. If they don't care at all, which is the majority of them, I use the FiFine F9 Wireless Lav system because I like the natural voice bass it delivers, and if they do care about the way it looks, I use the Zoom F2 32-bit float lav system. This one's more of a pain to set up on the agent. It doesn't link up to the camera itself, so I have to do it all in post, but the quality is also superior, and the fact it can be hidden like a traditional mic is extremely helpful for those agents that care. For headphones, I like these, mainly because they're my buddy Josh's favorites. Since I'm still learning a lot about the audio side of production, and he gave me this set for free, it makes them perfect ones for my kit because they look more professional than those silly red gamer set I used before. Plus the cord on this is very luxurious. Anyone who's worked with anything that has a garbage cord knows exactly what I mean there. All right, let's set things up and get to the lighting part. Another thing I really prefer the G300 over the SL150, the light I used before, is the way the light separates from the control unit itself. This is something that feels small, but I can't tell you how much my old back loves it. I have both the scrim material set on and the grid in the 90D because I want it to be as soft and narrow as possible so I don't have any spill to the background for the shot. I'm also going to take advantage of that extra throw from the parabolic modifier to replace my fill light to the way I place my agent in the frame. So let's freeze frame and talk about what I'm doing here and why. So hopefully you can adjust the knowledge I give you to the specific lighting scenario you find yourself in. Here's a top view of the room, so you can get a better idea of my game plan. The rooms are not super large for the purposes of video, but it's long enough when put together to try and highlight those back windows. I photographed the property on a previous day with better weather, so I already knew the layout, and I knew all these main walls were agreeable gray, color of the year a few years back, and extremely popular as a base color. Not super important, but some things you just pick up along the way, right? Knowing the walls were gray meant they would be pretty awesome as bounce for my single light setup here. I put the agent here, right behind this area where the rooms shrink together before re-expanding back out into the dining area behind her. This is the feature I knew I could use to my advantage. See, the goal here is to use the super directional light of the G300 to not only hit the agent's face, but also bounce back from this wall across and gently throw a little back onto the dark side, kind of like a fill. Typically, I stick my camera as tight in a corner as I can operate, so I can use some of the opposing walls as this bounce source when needed, but a layout like this is absolutely perfect for it. Either way, I'm taking the softbox and I'm feathering the light. I'm not at a 45 pointing this light directly at her. I'm way beyond that and pointing the light in front of her face, hoping to not only get the very edge to hit her face, the main force power of the light is traveling past her face, bouncing off the opposing wall to fill in. The last key is something I mentioned a few times, but didn't really stick on yet, and that's the windows behind her. This is where that G300 absolutely smoked my SL150 because I can make them not only look good because of the color to temperature adjustments I brought up earlier, not only that, but the power to blow past that window exposure and make them look just kinda overexposed so you can kinda see the outside, but not enough to see the house next door through that window. But it actually allows me to use that window light as a hair light or a backlight on the agent, making her stand out just a little bit more from the background and giving just a tad bit more depth and separation in the shot. If you're curious, this interview was shot on a Sony a7 IV with the 24:7 f4 Zeiss at 4K 24 frames a second. And one more tip I can give you before I go is please pull white balance and meter on the agent's face because that is the most important thing in this shot. I use a light meter and this Calibrite color checker for video because it's way larger than my pocket one. It has a side of tones and a gray side for easy custom white balance in the camera. Big shout out and thank you to We Got Editors for sponsoring this video. If you're new to real estate video, learning how to shoot, well, it's daunting and hard enough without also learning how to edit at the exact same time. Take some of those hassles away and send over your real estate photo and video editing work to the team over at wegoteditors.com. And honestly, just enjoy your evenings again. To the viewers, big thank you for making it all the way to the end. I hope that extra information was useful and not just a bunch of me rambling on jargon. If you like all the extra stuff in here, make sure to comment down below so I know to keep it up for the future videos because, you know, algorithms be damned. I care about creating what you guys want to see. Think about using some affiliate links down below or joining the members program here if you're interested in seeing some deeper dives on how I edit videos for clients. And if that's not for you, well, that's cool too. Catch you next time. Yeah, maybe with a shorter video too, or at least maybe not all these lighting things together. Let me know what you think. Should I just like make them all individual videos? That's what I'm thinking about doing instead of making an hour-long lighting video. Your opinion's important. All right, now, for real. Catch you next time.